Long freeze. Got complaints of thick ice. And we're gonna have to figure out why that's happening, because that's not good. I took off the front panel. Let's see if we can take this off real quick. Aha! Look at that. That is not good. Look at that. Big old slab of ice. Ice thickness probe is all the way inside there. I'm gonna be careful because the weight of this will cause this to snap off if I don't melt it correctly. So let's get to melting. Get myself some hot water in my pump sprayer. So I'm not sure if my ice thickness probe is the issue or not, but we want to protect it. So I'm gonna melt that out first. I'm just spraying hot water, and then I'm gonna put the front panel back on, or excuse me, the water curtain back on. I'm gonna put this in manual harvest, see if I can get this whole slab to fall off in one piece, save myself some time. Okay, so now that the ice thickness probe is loose, I went ahead and melted just around the edges so that this would be easier to slide forward and fall off. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this water curtain back on and put this into a manual harvest. So my ice is too thick to allow my curtain to close, use a different trick. So I've got this magnet here. I'm just gonna put my magnet right here, and that'll go from open to closed, and we can turn that on. Actually, we're gonna put it into manual harvest. All right, well, that fell off. I was trying to capture it, but oh my goodness. Look at that bad boy. So now that the ice is off, we can actually do our job. That gap for the ice thickness probe, that looks correct. Check our errors. We have long freeze, condenser, TXV faults, ice thickness probe faults, water faults. We got a lot of faults. We're just gonna clear all those. We're gonna go home. Machine is still off. Cool thing to check is your data history. Data history will show you some details of your minimum freeze time, which was 12 minutes, which is normal. Max freeze time, 35 minutes, which is way too long. Minimum harvest time is 3 seconds, should never be 3 seconds, probably leading us to a curtain fault issue, or excuse me, a bin switch issue, curtain switch. Max harvest was 7 minutes, should never be 7 minutes. And we're gonna just go home and we're gonna turn it on after we put our curtain back on. So I turn the machine back on. I'm gonna let this thing make ice. It's gonna be 12 minutes. It's totally fine. It's just gonna let me know that all the other components are working. I'm still leaning towards curtain switch. Curtain switch is what I'm gonna think the issue is, but we're gonna find out in just a second. So this thing's still in freeze, and I'm so confident that it's gonna be this curtain switch that's the issue that I went ahead and just went and got this. I'm gonna still see if this fails when it goes into harvest, and then also I'm gonna disconnect it, and I'm gonna measure the resistance before and after to see if we can see a difference in it. But that thing right here, the data history, if you go to it, you go to your minimum harvest time. If your minimum harvest time is 3 seconds, you pretty much know, I'm sorry, that's not showing up right. If your minimum harvest time is 3 seconds, you pretty much know that it's gonna be a curtain switch issue, because you should never have a 3-second harvest. So I'm hoping we're gonna be able to see this happen. I'm just gonna make it go into harvest by pressing on the curtain, or excuse me, the ice thickness probe. And now we're in harvest. Let's see if it kicks out in the middle or not. This one will probably work. It's not gonna fail until we're not here. But this is kind of the tricky thing you have to deal with, where when you're standing in front of it, it's gonna work. Then later on today, it's gonna fail on us. That's why we're just gonna go ahead and swap this out. That worked. Just to see if we can see the difference between the new one and the old one, I've got my bin switch leads my bin switch spades connected to my meter leads, set to ohms. And we're just gonna cycle this open and close a couple times and see what happens. It just kind of goes open and it closes. It usually hovers right around 0.6 or 0.7. And then you open it and it goes back. Initial readings are pretty high, but it always ends up leveling out. And now I'm gonna install the new one, see if there's any difference. To replace the curtain switch, I'm just gonna take off this touchpad. It'll make it easier to access. It's right behind here is where it's gonna be located, right there. Instead of trying to reach around right here or move the machine, I'm just gonna undo that 1 5/16 little hex head screw, and then you can just pull this cable out, maybe somehow, just like that. And then we're gonna replace it and then route this back up into place. I got the new one in place, same way as before, just connecting my leads to their spade connectors. I'm not really seeing much of a difference. So when you open and close it, it looks about the same. Numbers jump up and then level out, open, and then numbers jump up a little bit and then they level out. Just no real difference. So even though I'm suspecting that it's a bad curtain switch, I can't really prove it with any test that I'm doing. I could sit here for hours and try to watch it fail, or I can just use historical data from the machine. It shows me that it had a minimum harvest time of 3 seconds, 5 seconds, and that's almost always going to be a curtain switch issue. We got this guy all put back together. We're gonna let it make ice again, make sure it drops, and then we're gonna get out of here. We're just gonna tell the customer to keep an eye on this, make sure we don't end up with any more bricks. So intermittent issues on that Manitowoc. Only way you can really figure out the problem is if you know how the machine is supposed to work. You navigate to that historical data section of that touchpad. Look at your minimum harvest time. Your minimum harvest time should realistically be like 58 seconds to maybe like 1:30. It's kind of the range it should be in. If it's at 3 seconds, you know that that curtain switch is malfunctioning. And it's as simple as that. I've seen it probably 3 or 4 different times. And I know my coworkers have seen it 3 or 4 different times each. So it's not an uncommon problem. I hope you learned something. We'll see you next time.